expert too, pal. Hey guys, Tim Jack Adams. Thanks Vicky as well for the awesome intro. Basically what I do is I'm a wellness architect, and it's for human development, experience and change. So what I love to do is really just get people back to the basics of life. I think we get so busy now, you know, working with technology, that we sort of just forget the basic stuff, you know, just being able to reconnect back to ourselves, back to each other, and also back to the natural environment, which I find is a beautiful catalyst for us to be able to change the way that we think and really what's important. I've been really lucky, I guess, for the last 10 years. I've been able to actually take people out into the environment, having fun and reconnecting with them through our company's Water Sports Guru and Team Building Guru. And what I found was, it was really fascinating about the pre and post attitudes of people when they were coming out with us. And we found that people would basically be more energized, more invigorated, more connected with themselves, and more connected with each other as well. And I just found that people were just having so much fun. And you know, after about 10 years or so, I was sort of thinking, well, there's got to be a little bit more behind this, right? People just, you know, yes, they're having fun, but innately we know that, you know, if we go down to the beach, we sort of feel more relaxed. When we go on a hike, we feel good. And I started to sort of look deeper into this, and probably about 5 years ago, I came across a term called green exercise, which is basically just being active in nature. And what I found was a guy called Dr. Jules Pretty, and we connected, and he started to share all this white paper research about the science behind what it is that when we go out and engage in nature, and I found it really fascinating. So I started to dig a little bit deeper, and we created what we call, which is now GreenX, and the Green Brain Project. And so for the last 5 years, we've been getting professionals and experts and universities all over the world to basically help us work out what it is that we can sort of share with people to be able to get them to reconnect back to themselves, others in the environment. And what we created was the 7 core elements to do this, to really sort of show you a life guide on an approach, or a wellness, I should say, a deliberate effort to look after your mental, emotional and physical health, which I find is really hard these days with technology and, you know, keeping up with the Joneses and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I do. A little bit more on the GreenX is the 7 core elements basically involve movement. So when we talk about movement, a lot of people think about exercise and they think about the physical body, which is great, you know, the serotonins, the dopamines and all that sort of stuff. It makes us happy. But when I think about movement, first of all, it's got to be fun, right? Because I'm actually pretty lazy and I won't really do anything that I don't enjoy. So when I think about a movement, I think about walking the dog at the beach. I think about paddleboarding on a beautiful creek like this, surfing, whatever it is. But I've got to enjoy it, otherwise I ain't going to do it, okay? And the other thing I think about is movement's an amazing tool to actually look after mental health. And this is the thing, and everything I do, it's all about making sure that we're really headstrong up here, and you know, we stay healthy and we stay happy. And I think with so much technology and being stuck indoors all day and being sedentary, we find that we're just not getting out enough. We're not just, you know, we're not being physical enough. And that's not about getting into the gym, it's just about getting out and doing whatever you can. So when we talk about movement, I love to think about, you know, as a tree growing, and that's really improving us. You know, when our neurons connect to our hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, it really helps increase our well-being. It decreases our stress, and it's a beautiful tool. Then when we talk about environment, I could go on forever about the amazing effects that the environment has, but just a few little ones. It's amazing that all these trees around us actually create photoncides, and they actually reduce your cortisol levels, believe it or not. The waves here at the moment, negative ions come off and do the same. It increases our well-being. A walk on the beach, you know, you're drawing magnesium from the sand of your soles. Didn't make sense, but from the soles of your feet. But yet 70% of us actually wear shoes on the beach. It drives me nuts when I see that. But yet it's so good for you. So the environment is another amazing tool that we have. And talking about getting that magnesium through the soles of your feet, we also talk about earthing as well. So earthing is another one of our elements in GreenX, where basically it brings you back to the Earth's harmony. So we're all made up of energy, and then what we do is when we're earthing our bare feet, we actually move back to our Earth's energy, which is great. It's also one of the best anti-inflammations as well, so it's really cool. One of the most important ones though is actually time. So we need time to be able to do these things. We need time to first value us. And I think this is what's important. I think we forget to really spend the time in looking after ourselves. And when I talk about time, you know, everyone says they're so busy. You know, I'm so busy working, I'm so busy looking after the kids, my partner, chores. But you know what? This is what happens. We get so busy, we forget about this up here. And that's when it starts going downhill, and that's where it leads into depression. And once we get into depression, it's really hard to climb back from that. So we need to make sure that every day we make a deliberate effort to look after our wellness and to make sure we look after this. So it's taking that time every day to look after you, because you're the most important thing. Because remember, you can't go to work, you can't look after your kids, you can't look after your partner if you can't look after yourself first. So you have to remember that time is your most important asset. Which brings me on my second one, well, probably really is the first, which is connection. Now, connection's amazing, and yet we're probably more connected than we've ever been today in the universe with the internet, with Skype, but yet we're more disconnected than we've ever been. And they've found now that it's disconnection that's leading people to addiction, okay, because they're trying to numb themselves. They're taking something that was disconnected, they're not going back to heal it, and so they're going on to something that's easier, to gambling, to drinking, to whatever it is to try and numb this. But what we have to do is we have to get back to that true connection, whether it's with yourself, whether it's with your partner, your friend, colleagues, and actually getting back to nature, which we actually spend less time outdoors than maximum security prisoners. So when we talk about connection, we've found now that through a 75-year study at Harvard that it's actually the warmth of relationships in our lives that make us the happiest. The warmth of relationships in our lives, but yet we're so disconnected when we talk to everyone else. We're so busy on our phones, on Facebook, social media. We spend 3 hours a day spectating other people's lives. 1 month a year on TV. And what that does is that doesn't leave much time for us, and this is the problem. We need to spend that time connecting back to ourselves, back to each other, and back to the environment, so we can make sure that we're looking after this up here, because this is the most important thing. Then after connection, we talk about universal, and universal is intrinsic. It looks at our nutrition, it looks after our sleep, it looks at our attitude, which is so important. You know, you can't live a positive life with a negative mind. You know, we also have to look at a purpose. I think the number one thing that I see when we do workshops with people is that people need a purpose. People need to feel valued, and this is the thing. And if they don't have a purpose, if they don't feel valued, they don't want to look after themselves. And if that's you, if you actually don't have a purpose and you don't feel valued, well, it's really easy. You just want to find your strengths, find your passions and your beliefs and values, tie them all in together and find out what it is that you can do to help others, because that's what really helps us as well. And so when I talk about a purpose, it's about having that thing to wake up every morning, and you wake up out of bed and you go, wow, I know exactly what I want to do today, and I have a life's purpose, and I feel valued, because we need to feel valued. You know, the wellness industry looks at nutrition and exercise and mindfulness, but you know, right at the very core of that, people aren't going to do those things if they don't feel valued with themselves. If they're not happy, they don't want to go do all that stuff. It's just a band-aid. We need to go back and we need to connect back to ourselves. We need to find a value through others. And that's what we really need to do in our lives before we do anything else, is to feel a value for us to be happy. And then our last one in the 7 core elements. So we've got movement, we've got environment, we've got earthing, we've got time, we've got connection, we've got universal. Okay, and the last one's breath. Okay, and when we talk about breath, yes, it's about those awesome mindfulness tools that we can use to lower our cortisol levels and stress. But the other thing about breath is actually about being present in the moment. It's about whatever you're doing, it's about being there. Because we actually spend 47% of our time thinking about what's happened in the past or worrying about what's happening in the future. And we know we do this when we talk to people. We're constantly worried about what else is happening. And so they don't feel valued when we do that. There's a disconnection there and they feel that. So we need to make sure no matter what we're doing, whether we're connecting with ourselves or others, or we're just in nature, just trying to enjoy it, you know what, just throw that stuff away just for a little bit of time and just be totally present in what you're doing, because that's really going to help with up here. And so that's what I love to do. I love to connect people back to themselves, to each other, and obviously an amazing environment like this, because I think it's a beautiful catalyst. And that's it. Simple, easy, and that's my purpose. Thanks, guys.